Okay, this is buttons 2. We're going to sort of finish up this buttons exercise. At the end, I'm going to sort of go over project 3 sort of informally to make sure we understand sort of what this project is about. Okay, so it says starting on step 23 with the black selection tool, click on the green button stage, or click on the green button symbol on the stage. This will select this button. You'll see that it actually even selects the layer up here, so we know we're dealing with the right spot here. Okay. It says next on step 24, go to Window Code Snippets. Just a quick bit about what code snippets are. As I mentioned, Flash has a programming language. It's called ActionScript. And code snippets are basically a bit of code that are sort of prepackaged for you. If you get into using ActionScript in a more complex manner, you will likely write your own code. What this is basically sort of, as I said, prepackaged bits of code that do very, very common things. One of the most common things is having a button and being able to click on that button and go somewhere else. Okay. So it says click on the second folder called Timeline Navigation. Okay, so if your folders are a little bit different, just find Timeline Navigation. And then it says a set of choices will appear. Step 26, double click on the one called Click to Go to Scene and Play. Okay. Say OK to Flash asking if it can name this instance. So we're going to go like this. And you'll get this, the selected scene requires an instance name. It's basically saying, hey, I want to name this thing that you're doing, because you might do the same thing again, and we want to sort of name what this is called. It's basically going to give it a generic name, and I'll show you where that name is. Okay, so we click OK. Now, this is a much more sort of complicated window. It's similar to the sort of stop action that we did, but in this case it's a little more complicated. What you'll see up here is basically, what I call the plain English description of what's going to happen. And it gives you these instructions. Replace scene 3 with the name of the scene you would like to play. Replace 1 with the frame number you'd like to play. Okay, so here's where it named our instance. It's calling it button 1. There's all this other bit of code which we don't have to necessarily know, but I'll explain it. It's one's an event listener. The event is going to be a mouse click. So it's basically saying on a mouse click, go to a scene. Okay, and it's saying go to the scene in this movie clip and go to, and it just defaults to the first frame of scene 3. We don't have a scene 3. Okay, we, however, do have a green ball scene. Okay, you need to type these exactly. Okay, and this is on step 28. It says replace what is between the quotes with green ball. This has to be exactly what your scene is called. Okay, so I'm going to quickly go over here and double check. Mine is called green ball. The G is capitalized, the B is capitalized. I can't tell you how many times people get sort of messed up with this, and then they send me their Flash file, and they have it spelled green ball or whatever their scene was called, or there was a space or something, or they spelled green wrong. Who knows? It has to be exactly what your scene is called. Okay, you'll notice that as I type this, it basically turns green, which is usually an indication that this is sort of where the content that our action is sort of looking at. Okay, this 1 comma is the frame, so first frame of the green ball scene. Okay, now it says repeat steps 23 through 28 for the red ball button. So I'm going to close this out, and I'm not going to stop the video on this one. I'm going to sort of show you again. I'm going to go to Window. We already have the red ball down there. And I've clicked on the red ball button so that we've done that. And I'm going to go to Window Code Snippets, Timeline Navigation, click to Scene and Play. It's asking me to name this. We'll see the old one there, and we don't want to deal with the old one. We want to add with this one. You'll see it names this button 2, so it's sort of showing us all the actions here. I'm going to go and call this red ball. And again, this is review of what we did on that green ball button. I'm going to check to see if I've spelled that correctly. Looks to be correct. Okay. And I'm going to close this out. Okay. So now I have 2 different buttons that have 2 different scripts attached to them. Those scripts actually end up in layer called actions up here. So you should have 4 layers just like I do. Okay. Now, what we're going to do, we've basically done steps, 21 or 22 through 29 or 28 twice. What I want to do is sort of see if this thing works. Okay. This last little bit, which is the step 30 through 36, is a little bit of extra, and you'll see sort of what I mean. So I'm going to go to Control, Test Movie, and when I come into Flash, if I've done this correctly, it should stop at that first scene. Okay, and we should just basically see the red ball and the green ball button. I'll see that my overstates have worked. Now, one thing, and we'll just sort of see how this works. So I'm going to go to green ball. Great. I go to green ball and I go back. Okay. Now, we're going to see something a little bit different here. Go to red ball. Great. Red ball scene works. But whoops, I go to green ball as well. Okay. If you understand Flash, you should understand why this is happening. I'm going to come back here. Notice I have 3 scenes. They are in this order: home, red ball, green ball. Okay. When I go to red ball, it plays the scene red ball, but then it also sees that there's a green ball scene directly after it. It plays that as well. Okay. That is why when we click on red ball here, we see red ball and then green ball. It's playing the whole movie. Okay. The reason we do not see red ball when we click on green ball is I go from home to green ball. I skip that red ball scene. Okay. I always sort of picture actions like a little bit of a time machine. It just so happens that in Flash, we often are sort of going in a linear fashion. So when I click on red ball, it's showing me green ball directly after it. Okay. Now, in order to fix this, and this is going to be relevant to your project 3s because you're going to have kind of a path that splits. We sort of are going to see a little bit of information, and then we're going to sort of go onto one path or go onto another path. Okay, you got to organize this in a similar fashion. Basically, what we're doing, and this is the adding a short go to and play script. And it says on step 30, go to whichever scene is your second scene in your movie. In my case, it's the red ball scene. Okay. It says insert a layer and name it actions. Okay. Insert a keyframe on the last active frame on that scene. In this case, it's frame 60. So I'm going to insert a keyframe. Okay. I basically want this scene to play out, and then when it gets here, I want to tell it to go back to home. Okay. So I'm making sure I'm on this last keyframe. It says open the actions panel. And in this case, we're going to type in directly a bit of script. And you can copy and paste even if you want. So I'm going to go to and you're going to see that I need to type this correctly. And I can tell by the way it's lighting up in terms of color that I've typed it correctly. All I'm saying here is when that playhead gets to frame 60, go to and play the first frame of home. Okay, the first frame of home is our first frame of the entire movie and contains a stop action. So it's simply going to go to that first frame of home and stop. Okay, so let's see if this worked. Okay, let's see here. I'm going to test this. We'll go to green ball, which is correct already. And now we're going to go to red ball. And we went back. Okay. So unlike prior, we go to the right scene and we come back. Okay. So that's it for the exercise. This is a longer exercise, but it's simply one exercise. In terms of timing, you need to do this like now. Okay, your project is due next week. So understanding the sort of basic concept here is essential for getting your project done. Okay, so in relation to your project, let's quickly take a look because I want it to be very, very clear. I'm going to bring this over. It says for this project you're to pick a political, social, or cultural issue and explore the idea of choice. Your animated movie should inform but also offer your viewer at least one choice during the movie. This choice should offer a clear and likely personal perspective on an issue or simply inform in an objective manner. Please research your topic thoroughly in order to present clear choices and a point of view. I uploaded an example. Some things to consider. Size and shape, how information is presented, how buttons react to your user, how the speed of movements affect meaning, how images interact and complement information, and how sound, please include some sound, enhances the movie. Now, you must contain an animated file, obviously, text, images, and graphics, 2 buttons, okay? In terms of thinking about your buttons, think about presenting 2 different perspectives. You know, I'm going to give a very generic one, and don't do this one because it's very generic. Do you want to recycle your plastic bags? Okay, maybe your button is yes, and you click on yes, and then you reward that person with some great information about recycling and how much you know, petroleum and sort of energy they saved by doing so. But you want to also give that viewer the potential to go back and also click on that no. Okay, so if we come to, we've presented a movie about recycling. Wow, should you recycle? There's lots of things to recycle. Here are some things you can recycle. Hey user, do you want to recycle? Okay, you have a yes and no choice. I click on yes, and once yes is over with, do I go back to the yes and no screen potentially because I want the viewer to be able to sort of explore the no route, because the no route might offer us some information as well. Make sure you use those buttons. Maybe you have a button at the end that says go back to choices, or see what the other choice has to offer. I don't know, but make sure you're presenting this information clearly and in a way that we are able to see all the content. One big critique often people give each other in this is sort of, would have been great if I could have gone back without having to watch the whole movie and sort of see what the other choice allowed me to do. So think about that. Remember, you are using buttons. You have to use 2 buttons, but you might have 3. You might have the opportunity to sort of go back to that initial choice and let the viewer go back. Okay. If you're concerned about this portion of it, the sort of pick a political, social, cultural issue, several of you have emailed me over the course of the semester, you know, can I do this, can I do that? And that's a conversation we can have, yeah, just over email, and I'll sort of give some guidance on that. So please pick your issue. Think about things like how much people want to read, making information concise, like some of those infographics that I posted last week can be a good way to sort of get information across in an efficient and concise manner. So that is pretty much it. Make sure you get this button in next week. Make sure you also are working on and hand in your Project 3 next week as well.